Welcome to our World of Warships Getting Started guide. If you've already downloaded the game and opened it up, your port probably looks a lot different than this. This is the port of a developed player who's been playing it for a couple of years and has assembled a wide variety of ships. I'm not going to stay in this environment. I just want to show you sort of where it's going. World of Warships has done an excellent job of bringing you into the game step by step, but I wanted to give you a teaser of where it's going. Right now I have a battleship open. These are the big ships, and there are an array of them going back from the early days of dreadnoughts all the way through the most modern ships in the fleet, the Missouri and her compatriots, the Yamato. They're big ships with big guns. We're going to start with cruisers because that's where World of Warships starts you. These are jack of all trade ships. They have guns, they have torpedoes, many of them. Some of them have spotter planes. You won't have those in the beginning. Destroyers are fast, nimble creatures that use torpedoes and guns to interdict, and they are a lot sneakier than the other ships in the game. And you have an interface. We're in the port interface right now, and later on you'll have captains who can enhance your vessels. At the very beginning you don't. There are also a variety of battle types. You're going to start off in co-op battles, and we're going to see one of those shortly in our series. You're firing shells against and torpedoes against robot-controlled ships, or bots. So the AI interface is actually fighting against you. You join other players and fight the bots. It's a good place to train. It's a good place to practice skills. You get more rewards, and it's more intricate if you're fighting against real players. And you do that in real time, usually in teams of 12 players on each side over the course of about 20 minutes. And it can be a mix of ships as you go on. But you don't start there. We'll start back with co-op. Operations add a level of complexity. After you gain some experience, this will open up. You can get additional prizes and goodies, and you compete with other real players against bots, but there's a scenario and things that you have to accomplish. It's more intricate than a simple co-op battle, which is basically a shoot 'em up. Ranked battles, you have teams of 7 players selected at random by the computer on each side to give a mix. This is called the matchmaker. And you play against each other, and again, there are prizes, and it's an idea of the developers to make it a more direct experience rather than just as random as every man for himself, so to speak. In clan battles, as you get further along in the game, you can join a clan, and a clan are groups of players who are in an association. And in clan battles, they actually get together in teams of 7 on special maps and fight other clans. And again, you can get rewards and all kinds of goodies. The training room is a place where you can set up games between players or between bots and practice scenarios. And somewhere down the road, we'll make a video on that too. But we're going to shift over into the beginner's port in just a moment. And we're going to get a tour of the basic port, the interface, and the settings before we engage in a first battle. So I'm going to change over, and we'll see you in port. So here we are in the beginner's port. This is another installation of the game I have using a different account that is just the way a brand new player would see it with version 7.5 of the game. 7.6 is releasing shortly, and there are some minor changes, but at your level, if you're just a beginner, you're not really going to see much in the way of that. But I'm going to give you a quick tour of the settings and some issues with the way the user interface works to give you a quick introduction. This obviously assumes that you've gone to the website, downloaded the game, and set it up. So this is the port. And you have 2 tabs up here, port and profile to begin with. And I'm going to go through each and sort of what's what. You can change the port. If you click on this little anchor symbol up here in the corner, you get a number of ports. You'll notice that one of these says premium port. Premium is a type of add-on you can put in, and it's a good way to quickly advance, get more goodies. We'll explain those later, but right now we're just going to stick to the basics. I've selected the Black Sea port. There are a number of them. They basically give you a different backdrop and what goes on in there and the sounds. Um, Dunkirk, for example, actually shows the town of Dunkirk rendered in 3D with the invasion or the evacuation of the troops going on, so there's explosions and fires and all kinds of stuff. This is the Black Sea. It's a little more quiet for our purposes. And in here we have a level Tier 1 cruiser, the Hadashte. And you'll notice there are several different cruisers. The United States, um, the Soviet Union, Germany, British, Pan-Asian, which are different nations within the Pan-Asian sphere, um, and the French. And over time, um, there are more nations possibly added. And initially, there were just basically the Japanese and the U.S. But this is basically a gunboat. It's listed as a cruiser. It just has very basic stuff on it. And the idea is to get you to know how to use the game and the basic controls and find your way around without too much clutter. You only have co-op battle. I mentioned earlier that there are different forms. When you come in here, you'll see you don't have that. You do have an introductory mission. We're going to do one of those shortly, and we'll see how the controls work. But right now, you just have the ship. You notice here there's no captain. You can look at the armor layout of the ship, and these are all quite simple. It's basically very thin metal cladding on the ship to protect it against gunshot. And you change that just by clicking here. This goes back to the ship layout. Um, and survivability, this is how many hit points, how many times you can take a shot, and it isn't 7,400. A different kind of hit will have different damage it does. It is possible to get deleted or removed from the game by losing your ship in one blast. It'll be there when you get back to port, but in that game, that'll be it for you in the game if you run out of health points. And your job is trying to get the other team's ship's health points to go down. That's one of the ways you can win a game. Artillery, if you hold your mouse over, it's going to explain a number of things about the weapons you have. In this case, the main battery. These are the guns right here. And these are 139 millimeter. They reload in 4.8 seconds. That's each one. And you have several. In this case, you have 3 positions with 1 cannon in each, or 1 naval rifle in each. As you move up, some have 2, 3, and even 4 rifles in each in some of the big battleships. And the range, that's how far this shell will go. And then you have, in this case, we're not going to worry about anti-air defense because you're really not going to be seeing them down here. But as you move up, there are aircraft carriers, and some ships have spotting planes, stuff like this. So interaction with aircraft does happen. Maneuverability. How fast can the rudder shift, and what's your maximum speed? Also, how quick can you turn around? If you're a big, slow ship, you're more likely to get hit easier. If you have difficulty turning in a hurry, you're going to have a hard time dodging torpedoes and things like that. And concealment. How far away can you be seen at sea, by air, or when you fired your guns? If they can't see you, it's an awful lot harder to hit. There are all kinds of neat things coming up later, radar and sonar and good stuff. But right now we're just working with learning the basics, and when I say things like that, it's just a bit of a teaser. So why do we have different ships? Each line is designed with slight variations in strengths and weaknesses, with the idea that they're balanced, so in a fight, you work with the different variables, and it's part of what makes the game interesting. As you move up the line, in general, the Japanese cruisers have both guns and torpedoes. The Americans lose their torpedoes for cruisers after a bit. None of them have it at Tier 1. And I'll have other videos that go into all the distinctions between the ships. Right now at the beginning, you're just trying to get a basic for how they feel. You might try a couple of different ships just to get used to that. You really don't have to stay at Tier 1 very long. And that's what we're going to look at next. Let's go into the profile. Well, actually, let me go back for a sec. You notice I was moving my mouse and I can change around, look at the ship, see at different angles. I can actually click on one of these things and it will take me to it. So for example, if I wanted to see the main battery, I click on the main battery, there it is. I click on the AA guns and they move there. So if you're trying to identify something and see what it is, you can do that. You can also zoom in and out. Um, but we're going to go into profile right now. And beginning players are at level 1, and that basically means you've got the game and you can play in co-op. If you and there are different aids in here. You can watch an introductory video, and there are other tutorials. But there are also folks like me that produce them, giving you the benefit of what I've learned, for example, in about 16,000 battles. As you move up, you get access to more and more tools and goodies. So after you've played a few battles and learned how to maneuver in battle and use the interface a bit, you get to Tier 2. And you do this by getting experience in a given ship and overall as a player. So as soon as you get to level 2, you get tech trees and modules. And tech trees and modules are basically the way you get to and equip new ships. A tech tree shows the range of ships, and there are 10 levels of ships. Tier 1 is where you are right now as far as your ship goes. That's different than player level 1. Okay, that's the ship level or tier, okay, is how advanced a ship is. And Tier 1 is very basic, no fancy guns, just basic naval rifles with one kind of shell in them. Here you get a branching tree, and as you gain experience on one ship, you get to a point where you can unlock the next tier up. You advance through the ships in order, and each time you move up, the complexity of the ship and what it can do in general changes. And learning some of the stuff and what you want to do with that is part of the fun of playing the game. Also, as you move up, you start getting access to destroyers, battleships, and aircraft carriers as well as cruisers. And sometimes in a given nation there are different variations on those ships. There are light cruisers and heavy cruisers and torpedo destroyers and more gunboat destroyers. And that's part of the fun of the game too. Moving up to Tier 3, you get access to random battles. Again, this doesn't take super long, but the idea is that 1 and 2 get you to where you're comfortable playing with robots, which are easier, and you're not fighting against all kinds of fancy strategies that other players and groups of players, because you can actually join in a group of 3 ships and play in a division once you get to a certain point. Moving up, you get containers. Level 4 adds that, and this gets you more goodies as you play the game, and you can get up to 3 containers a day, and they add all kinds of neat things, sometimes very neat things. I'm not going to go any further up that because at this point it sort of might get confusing. There are awards that you can get for playing very well. These don't happen in co-op battle, so that'll wait until you get into random. And you can get a summary, and here you only have co-op, but it shows the number of battles you play, the ratio of victories, all kinds of statistics. These are also available on the WoW's website. If you don't like people seeing your statistics, you can hide them. So we're going to go back to port and look around the port just a little bit more. Premium Shop lets you go off and buy goodies. There are people who very early on will go ahead and buy premium ships, which you can do here. Doubloons are ways that it's a fancy in-game currency you actually spend money for, and you can buy extras. Premium account will get you faster moving because you get bonuses and extra credit for things that you do. First couple of battles is probably not worth it, but as you move on, it definitely is. About around Christmas time, they have a sale, and usually the 360 days of premium gets discounted. And it is good to have premium if you can afford it and really love the game. You can also buy premium ships, and these are advanced tier ships from where you are right now. Um, and they offer other benefits. We'll have another video on that. So we're not going to spend any more time in premium, but you might be curious to what it was, so I was letting you know. Okay, so with that, you've known how to change your port. You know there are access to video tutorials. There are a bunch of other things in here um, that later will become more important if you click on your name. But if you click over here on this little gear, you get something you can use right now. That is one way that you can exit the game. Um, but more important is settings. And there are probably some settings you want to look at shifting right now, or at least know they're there. So under graphics, this is the way your system interacts with the game meta, and it can affect performance and how well you can see stuff. Um, so if you have a very good graphics card, you can run it, full bore and get high frame rates. In other words, the screen will refresh very quickly when you're in game. If you get below about 20 frames or 25 frames per second, you're getting to where you really can't play the game effectively. Um, so you can play with these settings. Right now, they're basically at medium. If you set it higher or very high, for example, C rendering, which will take some resources, but if you have it very high, it's going to look very realistic. If you have it very low, you're not going to get nearly the C effect. And the same thing is true with other stuff like the foliage and when it renders. If you do have trouble with color blindness or there's an issue with your monitor, you do have the ability to adjust that so it is going to be easier to see on the screen. But this is basically so that you can get a good performance out of your system and see what you're doing. Audio. This also can affect stuff about how well your game interface appears to you. Right now I've got sound quality set to low. Um, if I set it to ultra, it is going to, if I don't have it already loaded, have to load more software to run it. It is much neater. You can adjust the different levels of gunfire, ambient sound, stuff in port, etc. I'm going to give you one of my little tricks. You have a original sound kind of thing. If you set it to war drums, play music in battle, when somebody gets close to you, there will be a tempo change in the drums, and that to me is real handy because if somebody gets spotted and I'm not really paying attention because I'm actively fighting some other player somewhere else, this lets me know that there's somebody there that might be a threat, so I find it personally useful. If you start playing with other players, you're going to want to enable voice chat. You can set it up to whatever device you want. So if you have more than one microphone or output system, you can do it so that the voice chat comes out of that. And you have the option of toggle to talk or push to talk. Okay. If you toggle to talk, you hit whatever the key is that is set for it. Here it's V to start transmitting. And it will stay on as long as it's there. If you push to talk, you actually have to hold that key. And that becomes, what's your preference kind of thing. Controls, and here there are a few that are worth noting. There is an alternative interface mode, and it has 3 settings: off, adaptive, and full. This gives you more information about the opposing ships, and I would recommend that unless your graphics adapter can't handle it, you set it to at least adaptive, if not full. Some people find full has a bit too much clutter, and obviously this is not super intuitive. Right now you haven't been there, but I'll show you when we get into the game. But that's a good one to have. Also, the collision avoidance system. The terrain hit indicator tells you when you're about to run into something that isn't water and as part of the terrain, a landmass of some sort. Knowing it's there is good because you may be very busy and not aware, since you're looking in another direction, that you're about to run into an island. The avoidance system I leave off because sometimes that can actually misinterpret what you're doing and run you into something. That's the way I see it, but you might want to experiment with that. Um, Show time in port doesn't mean how long you've been in port, but it shows a clock down in the corner so you don't lose track of the game. Um, you can adjust the different buttons that do things as you play it a little bit and get used to them. You may want to adjust something. I actually find it easier, for example, to use the space bar for bringing the camera back to the ship. So it was set to something else before, and I've set it to space. Um, so if you find something that gets in your way, you can come in here. Be aware that if you change something in here and it is already used by another setting, that setting will now no longer have something in it. So these are worth knowing and experimenting with as you go for both performance and suitability to your purpose. When you've got it the way you want it, you hit apply. If it requires restarting now, I set to ultra for sound. That requires a restart. If you really want to have it work that way, then you do need to generally do the restart. We're just going to go back to port because I don't need to put all those sound settings in. And here we are. And so that gives you the basics. And so now it's selecting a ship and getting ready for battle. And as you get it more advanced, there might be other things you have to do. But here it is pretty much just clicking on co-op battle and going off into it. I'm going to actually walk you through a training battle and just get you a little sense of what happens. And then we'll go into different things in following videos as to more advanced stuff of handling the ship and choosing these different vessels. Anyway, so off we go. So go ahead and pick the ship you want. That's your choice. I am going to go ahead and grab the Bougainville, which is the French cruiser. Like I said, each nation runs a little different, but at this level, there isn't that much functional difference. Then go ahead and click on where it says Co-op Battle, because what we're going to do is an introductory mission. These are very simple, and you can do them 10 times, and they're just designed to master ship control and the weapons, okay? So if you went to co-op, you'll be immediately put into one with a number of other players, anywhere from maybe 5 or 6 up to a dozen players against an equal number of identical ships is the way the bots work. But we're going to click on Introductory Mission, and then you have to go back and click Battle. Okay, so there's two things. Most people tend to play one type or another, but you choose the type of mission you want, then you have to click the battle button to actually engage the battle. So off we go. And we select a ship. I forgot this in these. We're going to select the Erie. Normally, to go into co-op battle, you'll need to select the ship you want to take or use the one that's already selected. The anchor is indicating that the computer or the server at World of Warships is actually setting up your scenario for this game. The W, S, A, and D keys move you forward, backwards, and side to side. And so we're hitting the W key and moving forward. And it says protect area A and protect allied ships. That's our mission. You'll see it up above. And so we're heading to area A and we're taking fire. Those streaks in the sky. And we have some additional ships behind us. These are bots that are playing with it. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit my shift button and go into binoculars, and I can look further out. And there's something over there, and there it is. There's our enemy. And you'll notice that I have a set of circles in the middle. This is where my guns are going to go. And I have a bar, and that bar gives me an idea of how much delay there is. In other words, if you'll see, the shell is moving through the air. Different types of guns and different nations have different rates of fire and different amounts of energy in the way the shell moves through the air. So right now what I'm doing is I'm holding down my left mouse button and I'm firing shells, and I'm using the point of aim, so you have to lead a little bit. And there I'm missing, okay? And I'm also getting an artifact to hold my mouse button to move around. There's a bug here. And I've just killed a ship. Now you see how that comes up, showing me with a red ribbon that I've killed something. Now notice I'm putting several of these markers together and I'm getting several shells, and that's because, and I'm going to step back and let you see, I'm firing more than one gun at once, and I've just got another kill. Pretty cool, huh? Later on, there are similar tools to use things like, now if I pull back, I can see more of what's around me, because see, I'm holding down my right mouse button, I can swivel, and if I shift in, I get a binocular view that helps me get accuracy, but I can't see as well around me. And so now I'm moving to Area A, because I'm trying to protect that. They have it right now. And I'm continuing to shoot. You'll also notice up in the upper right-hand corner, I'm getting ribbons for this. On the far left, it's indicating that I have a hit, and then the lightning bolt kind of thing indicates I've incapacitated something on the bad guy's ship. The red ribbon says I've killed something, and there it is. And the one to the far right indicates that I have a set of fire on an enemy ship. And now if you'll notice here, the A is changing. I'm capturing it. And that ribbon says I just got a solo cap. You get points for each one of these in a real game. So now I got to find out where Area B is. So you can see on the mini-map, this is the device down in the lower right-hand corner. And in battle, this is a very important thing. It tells you where things are, it shows land masses, and as enemy ships show up, it shows them. If you put the plus key in your numpad, it will get bigger. And you can adjust some of the features on it over here for what you see and how visible it is. I'm going to make it a little more transparent so I can see through it by hitting water transparency. And I've made it bigger. And you can see now that my ship in the center is turning towards Area B, which is my next part of this mission. And my guns, I'm swinging around. This is another thing. Look down at the ship and you can see the guns are turning. In order to hit something, you're going to have your guns turned towards them. So it's also generally a good idea where you expect your enemies to be to start turning those guns early. Okay, and I'm using, again, the W key moves me forward, the S key moves me back. If you look in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see a marker moving me from stop, that means the engine stopping, up through full speed for whatever that ship is. I can actually go in reverse. And you can also see the compass, and that's showing me where my ship is pointed and where its guns are pointed. So that's another reference you can use. Above that is a green outline of the ship, and you'll see it has 4950 in green, and then it has 4950 in white. Those are my health points. When those go to 0, I haven't taken any hits yet. When those go to 0, I'm done. I'm dead. And it's back to port, as they say. So now I'm angling into B. And we don't know right now if there's any enemy ships, but I see gunfire over there. So I'm expecting to see, and if you watch the mini-map, you'll see the ship show up when it becomes invisible. And there they are, they're on the mini-map, you see them there. And I can use my mouse to scroll forward. Now I'm on fire, and you'll see that I have two little icons over the green ship indicating there's two fires, which means I'm in trouble, to be honest. So what I'm going to do now is press the R key, and if you'll notice that little fire bottle down there, the fire has gone out. I've set a fire on them. Now if I get another fire, I don't have another one of these little fire bottles, okay? And so I will burn more. And fire is one of the ways you can lose your ship. If some of these boats had torpedoes or they ram me just right, I might flood out. So I'm doing what I showed before. I just got another kill. Now you'll notice that the B up above, that A and B, there's two, one's a square and the other's a diamond at the moment. The aim with it being solid means we own it because it's green. If the enemy had it, it would be red. The B indicates the enemy had it, but right now it's being contested. And there's two ships. And if you'll notice, the Hadashi has one diagonal mark through it. That means it is a cruiser. And what we have next to it is a Karachi, and that is a battleship. It has two marks through it. It has bigger guns and generally more hit points. We got another kill. And we're going to go ahead and try to take care of this battleship. And it's almost dead. And you'll notice up above we have primary tasks. This is sort of like a scenario. We're going to sink the battleship and capture Area B. We really can't capture as long as an enemy ship is in here, but I'm setting it on fire. Notice I've gotten my repair party back, so if I need it, I've got it. But if that battleship hits me really well with its guns, I do not want to have my full broadside or be parallel to that ship. Makes it easier to hit. I'm also noticing where his guns are. They're not pointed at me. If they're not pointed at me, his primary guns can't hit me. Some ships have secondary guns, and they can hit you and do damage, so you have to be careful. And you can see he's got secondaries coming out. But we've just about completed this. Again, the W and S are your back and front keys. Your A and D are your side-to-side keys, or accelerate, decelerate, and move to port and starboard. Port is left, starboard is right. And we have just about sunk this boat. There it is. And we completed the secondary task, and we are capping. Now, this is the deal. Ships, if you sink all the ships in most battles, you win. But meanwhile, you can conceivably lose, even if you're way ahead on ships, if they have caps and you don't, because there are points given for holding the caps. And a lot of players just get in there and shoot them up and then wonder why they lost, and they lost because their team wasn't also capping. At the end of the game, you get a rundown of what you did. In this case, we won. And we lived because we didn't see where we got hit by somebody else. The amount of damage we did. So with 56 hits, and if you look at this, I'm going to put my mouse over it, and it says penetrations and non-penetrations. So with a penetration, the shell goes into the ship and causes damage. A non-penetration, it doesn't do any direct damage, but if it causes a fire, the fire can cause damage over time. Setting fires, you can have up to 4 fires burning on a ship at once. Caps are also valuable. I'm going to show you, well, this doesn't have a breakdown. If we had the breakdown, which you would get in more advanced play, you could see just how many points you got for capturing. This can be a real source of in-game income. Incapacitations, this shows not what you incapacitated. It could have been a gun. It could have been steering. If your steering is incapacitated, you can't turn. If your engine is incapacitated, you're still in the water, and both of those will make you a bigger target. We had 6 kills, and we set 7 fires. When you're done with the game, you click back to port, and now you're back in port. Because this was a practice game, you don't actually get to see fancy results from it. You can go back and look over here and see exactly what you saw before, as long as the game hasn't been reloaded. But we don't have any exchange credits. And what are exchange credits? Exchange credits are credits that you get that you can use to make purchases in-game of ships and modules for ships. You need ship XP to move up. And when we do the video for getting to level 2 and you get the tech tree, which will be the next one in this series, and we actually go out and play some more games in co-op and get a little fancier with our ships, I'll explain more of how that works. But the idea is that by getting ship XP, you get to add improvements to the ship. These don't have improvements, but at Tier 2 they do. So that they can strengthen the hull, they can get better engines, they can get better guns, add aircraft capabilities or better torpedo tubes, more airplanes for aircraft carriers, stuff like that. And then you get more ship XP, and that's how you get the XP you need to research the next ship. And we'll cover that in the tech tree. So thanks for watching. I hope it's been informative. Um, Go out and have some battles, have fun, and when you're ready to move on, we have the Tier 2 video coming up, the tech tree, and more on how to win in co-op battles and get ready for random battles where you actually get in with other players. Again, thanks for watching. I hope you'll subscribe. Feel free to leave any comments or suggestions, and we'll see you out there. Have fun.